Hello, and welcome back to Grinds My Gears. So, at the end of the last episode, I was pontificating about setting up a green fluid build up at this corner. And my reasoning was, there's a local patch of copper and there's a couple of patches of iron. And I thought that would be a really excellent place to set up shop with a dedicated green build. I then went away and started sketching out what would be required for it. And very quickly decided that we really should be starting to use module builds. Started building a module build for green fluid with the modules I have available, which are the tier 1s, because we don't have blue circuits yet. And pretty rapidly ran into all sorts of things where I had sort of random bits of belts of plates left over that I couldn't consume neatly. To the point where I got frustrated with the whole thing and decided what I really need is smelting. Because, right, this is an expensive recipes world. All this is smelting, and this is just smelting to support the core sciences we've got so far. So, time to do smelting. And in a serious manner. Not this stuff with the four carriage trains bringing in ore. We need proper smelting outposts which can actually deliver sensible amounts of material to then be turned into green circuits and gears and fluids. So I went away and scratched my head about how to actually build one of these things and made a blueprint. And I did it off camera. I know some people like to see the design process, but it would have been basically watching me swear for a long time. And I don't think anyone really wants to see that. Anyway, this is the blueprint I've come up with. And I don't know how much of it I can actually build. But we will see. And of course, it's got some items in here that shouldn't be here. Yeah, there are some creative mode items in this which I need to replace with real items. So we will get some of this down and see how it looks. Okay, so this is a red belt build. I'm at the point really where red belt is the plan. I just can't get enough throughput for these outposts on yellow belt. I did test it out in creative, and yellow belt everything was just a bit slow. Okay, so the idea is we have this arrangement to unload a train. It goes via a box. So we're mainly buffering in the train, but there's a little bit of buffer in a box. And that's just enough to keep everything going between trains. If the trains stop, then the production stops. Okay. Then there's a second train here, which is picking up the ore. To make all the belts line up, I had to offset the two sets of stations by a few squares, which is unusual, but you know, it gets the job done. Then we have a whole bunch of these electric smelters. And because we don't have beacons, because we don't have blue circuits, the most efficient way to do it is to put one speed and one productivity. So if you run the numbers, that's the best trade-off. Obviously there's a power consumption cost, but I don't care about that. We can deal with power. So this brings in a full red belt of ore, and that comes up this red belt. We then shove it into these furnaces. They only need slow inserters. And because they run slowly, there's quite a few of them. Okay. And if we carry on up, okay, we get to midway, And then we need to do a lane switch there. So if we zoom out, that's about halfway. It's actually halfway minus one machine. So this is half minus one. So that pushes the material that was on the outside onto the inside. And I had to do it with a splitter because space is really constrained. This build is 7 tiles wide, and if you know train carriages are 6 tiles long, but then there's a single tile between carriages. So this was the smallest I could make the build, the narrowest I could make it. I did try various options where there was room to put beacons in future. None of them lined up. So I figured when we got to the point where beacons were an issue, I would rip this build up and replace it with a proper beacon build. For now, I'm going to be putting 1 productivity and 1 speed mod of whichever prod and speed tier I'm up to. Okay, so let's count them because I'm not actually, I can't remember how big this is. All right, so that is 43, yeah, 43 smelters. So it would be 48, but because we've got prod mod 1s and speeds, we lose 5 machines, which doesn't sound like a lot, but you know, why not? It means we don't consume quite a full belt of ore, and we produce ever so slightly more than a full belt of plates. Okay. And this is where I sort of wish we were building things using roboports, because I have to do a lot of standing around. Okay, so I'm out of belt. The belt is not that tedious to put down by hand, to be honest. It's things like the inserters and power poles that I am quite happy for the bots to do. I wish there was a way to prioritize which things the bots put down. Perhaps the solution is to put my roboports into the plane, load the plane up with the things I don't want to put down, and let them work out of there. I don't know. There are probably smarter ways to work. The other thing is I set this up to be 8 carriage trains, so they're 282 trains. That means I can use the same format trains later on for my logistics bot builds, which I'm likely to be using later as we head towards SpaceX. Because I've got a series of builds from my base in a box world which are based around 282 format trains. Okay, so anyway, this is basically going to be watching paint dry for a while. So I thought I would just give you a heads up. What else do we have going on? Yeah, so research isn't going at the moment. Let's start up with research. So I can't do these because these require blue chips. I started automation 3, but can't do that because I don't have blue chips. Nuclear power, however, I think I am going to do for a variety of reasons. So I don't know if I want to use nuclear power plants, but I certainly do want to use nuclear rocket fuel, nuclear train fuel. And I may want to switch over to nuclear bots later, and they build with a fuel cell, exactly the same thing you would put into a power plant. Okay, how are we doing? I think I'm nearly out of my first wave of building materials. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, doing all right. So, oh, it's nice to see my inventory a bit less full. I was getting really fed up with it being permanently jam-packed. So hopefully this will provide enough smelting. I did some back of the envelope calculations, and I think this is enough to run the whole of the green science build and have some left over. So I think I can run this into a dedicated green circuit build, and into a dedicated gear build, and into anything else that needs raw plates, and still have a bit left over. That's the hope. Okay, off you go. At least I've finally got something to do with all the wooden poles which I had lying around. Alright, let's head over this way. Yeah, this is a very cheap build in materials as these things go. So I'm using wooden power poles. And I've ratioed it out. So as we put tier 2 modules in this, we can shrink the build down by length while keeping the same throughput. And cool. So that potentially lets us fit more of these into the same space. And then as we get beacons, this can be remade again to use a beaconed build. Once we have oh, look at that, cool, lots of stuff. And then after that, once we've got logistics unlocked, it's a question of ripping this up entirely and replacing it with a logistics bot based system, which should be a lot better. I tried various options here for the draining these belts, and I found it difficult to drain them using blue inserters. So there's this slightly ugly arrangement of stack inserters. 4 is sufficient. It's just a bit unfortunate that I do need all that machinery to drain the belts. I'm tempted by loaders, but they just seem too cheaty for me for this playthrough. Okay, so do I have anything useful in here that I can use? No. Right, let's head back. We need all the things. Okay, let's start off with belt. And is this researching? Yes, they're all lit up. Fine. Maybe I should put down more. Yeah, it'll crawl through. If it becomes an issue, I'll deal with it. Okay, so let's take 50 of those. I'm not sure how many I actually need. All the stack inserters. Okay, 50. Power poles, all of those. Then yellow inserters, all those. Okay, let's see if okay, I want to set a logistics. No, I don't. I'm going to be using tons of these things. Okay. Build from the plane a bit. Right. There's an asymmetry here in the number of boxes for pick up and drop off on purpose. This isn't me not counting. I want the supply of ore to be really consistent. I want there to be a constant supply of ore from mines. never a gap in the supply. I would want there to be ore trains queued up. Then I would like the trains which are picking up the plates to be in and out quite quick, so that they can get off to their factory to be dropping off. So I'm probably going to ratio out these builds so that trains are waiting in the drop-off areas and then rushing to the pickup, back to the drop-off. That's probably how I'm going to arrange things. Okay, let's head up here. So I've still got inserters, I've still got, here we are. Just laying down all the things. The problem with being in the plane in the middle of the build is that it's difficult to mine bots that need recharging without accidentally picking up bits of the blueprint, which obviously we don't want to do. The other thing I need to do is set up a nuclear bot build, I think. So I'm going to install the nuclear bots mod next time. Then, yeah, so this is consistent, isn't it? This is consistently running full speed. Let's put down a... Right, so how many more? Another run of 6? There we are. Okay, so 3, 6. Okay, so when I get back, I'll put that down. And I have charging issues. Okay, I'm just going to have to wait for them to drift back and grab them. Okay, they're all in. I certainly don't have everything put down, so let's fly around. And for now, we'll go around the edges. Cool. Okay, so in other news, I watched the new Predator film last week, which I quite enjoyed, and I have been watching a BBC series called Killing Eve, which I'm also quite enjoying. And I'm counting down the days to the new series of Doctor Who. Those of you who aren't British, perhaps that's passed you by. But this time the Doctor is a woman, which apparently is a really big thing. So I'm quite looking forward to that. Hopefully I will get to watch it live rather than having to record it and then replay it, because otherwise my Facebook feed will tell me what was going on and post me screenshots. Right, come on. Come back. Okay, still putting things down. what else? Oh yeah, because this smelting array is 8 carriages. I'll have to set up some mines for 8 carriage format. I also, obviously, those of you who are following along, this is one smelting array and it needs to be fed with one type of ore. I will need a second smelting array for the other kind of ore somewhere. I don't think I want them to be right on top of each other because I'm not sure how much I'm going to have to expand this out to extra copies. So I think I want to spread out my copper and iron. I've had a bit of a hunt around as to where I could put it. And there aren't that many options because I've got these great big lumps of belt. This area is quite good. Anyway, that's what we're up to. I'm going to leave it there because you're basically just watching my bots float around. So I'll be back again soon with this built and we'll see how well it works. All right, bye-bye.